here we are, another day. We got next step is so what I went through and did is took a picture of the front and the back of every panel all around, just to have a picture of how they fit before I marked them. Then I went through using my Lufka Sharpie. If you don't know what Lufka is, look it up. And I drew the lines. So I put lines on every seam to kind of just get the fitment, all the seams. I don't know if that's how you're supposed to do it, but I did it that way. You know, I figure if anything, I can always wipe it off with acetone later. But I went through, especially like the back side of things, and especially where there's two, so a line there, I did a line over here and up there. So, and then what I did, it doesn't tell you to do this, but before I take them off, what I did is I went through the diagram here corresponding with the number here, and then I numbered them all. This is 49, but I numbered it 1 first. 8, 10, and then kind of put them in conspicuous spots, but just so I know. And then next step will be to removing all of these little 1/4-inch screws all the way around and taking the panels off. So yeah, just trying to be organized, trying to make it so that when I go to put it back together, it's a little bit easier. done. So here it is. Bare chassis, no aluminum panels on it. That's it, all here. Now we can start bolting things. It looks like, so I want you to keep all the they call them number 8 screws, 1/4 inch, whatever, and then here's all the aluminum panels I took off. I did it with a 1/4 inch drive speed handle and a 1/4 inch socket because speed handles work. And it looks like the first steps are to put some of the panels back on, and you put like sealant on them and then you rivet them in place. And so they teach you how to do that in the chassis assembly. Looks like you're going to start to put the panels on, sealant. They want you to use the rivet spacer tool to put it all on. So I'll probably go on this video until I get to front suspension, maybe. So this will be like aluminum panel video, preparing the aluminum or something like that. But the next video will be front suspension. So I'll try to change it up like that. But that's it. There you go. That's for removal of all the panels. And then next part of this video will be me putting some of the panels back on. All right, so this is pretty much finishing up what I would consider the beginning, or chassis aluminum, because it required me to remove all the aluminum panels that came on the vehicle. That way you could start to then install, you know, the two first panels. And that also gives you, if you've never done anything like this before, this gives you the opportunity to learn like how to use a rivet gun. You know, I have a basic rivet gun that you can buy at Home Depot and Lowe's, and that's one of the other things too. I try to buy tools and supplies that I can get, but just to drive over to a store. Online is good for some things, but if I can't get it in 10 minutes if I need it, or 15 minutes, then that kind of hurts productivity, right? So I went, you know, and bought, you know, they require you to put silicone. So I put, and you know, again, if you're not doing this, then this might help you in information and the thought process of how I've come up with what I'm getting. So I went to Lowe's and they had all-purpose GE silicone, which is, you know, they say window and door projects, right? But silicone, I need silicone to be silicone. And so, you know, that's what I used in this part here, where they're talking about applying the silicone to the panel to install it to the chassis. You know, then this clear silicone is going to work just fine. Also, drill bits. You know, I bought this 1/8 inch DeWalt drill bit, but the drill bit that I found was working really good. You know, because the chuck in this grabs, you know, this drill bit a little bit better than it grabs just the round drill bit. That's like I think they called it a stinger or something like that. And then, you know, that's how I drilled all the holes in the panel after I marked them and center punched them. Center punching is also a trick for drilling. If you want to get the drill bit to drill in the right spot, center punching helps. You don't need to do it for this, but, and also aluminum is pretty easy to drill, to work with, as you know, with anything, drilling, cutting, whatever. Aluminum is nice and easy to work with. It's fairly soft. Almost, I find like it's almost like wood in terms of metals and dealing. You know, it's very easy to work with and stuff. But yeah, this is it. This is the, you know, the rivets to hold it to the frame. And then the next step after this is you start with the front suspension. So that's the end of what I'm going to consider the beginning of chassis aluminum, which is removing the panels and then installing these two F panels. And I would imagine, you know, as you move your way back through the chassis, every time you're going to get to an area you're going to work on, they're probably going to have you do the aluminum first. So again, this is a good chance to get the process down so that you can, you know, much more easily do the rest of the aluminum on the vehicle. You know, and that, because, you know, part of the building itself is the planning and figuring out, if you've never, again, if this is your first car you've ever built, you have to figure these processes out, and you might not have the tools. You know, again, I bought an Arrow rivet gun, I think years ago at a Lowe's or a Home Depot or whatever. But you know, it works if you you know, put the right, make sure you match the right insert piece with, you know, the rivets, and you'll be fine. Also keep, this is something that they force you to do in aviation. In aviation, it's called FOD fastener control, for the, you know, FOD being foreign object debris, to keep from foreign object damage happening. And that is when stuff gets sucked up into the engine. So, you know, you have to, in aviation, you have to inventory everything and keep track of it all in bags. We call it bagging and tagging, because you can't lose any of that stuff. So if you want to take that down a couple notches, you don't have to do it at a 10 like that. But, you know, if you keep your stuff in bags and keep it nice and neat, again, it's easier to work with during the build. So, you know, those are just little things that you can learn from professionally building things. And you know, that's how I learned it. I learned it from building jet engines on how to do that stuff, and then I carried it over to the, obviously I don't do it at the extreme, but you know, I carry over a lot of it. So that's how I'm going to build this car. And you know, so you can follow along, and I'll give you these little tips and stuff like that. But that's, you know, that's how you gotta, that's how you got to do it sometimes in order to make sure that the build comes out the way you want it to come out. So yeah, thanks for watching.